Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I am so excited to have a dear friend of mine and someone who's super impacted my journey in a really mindful and logical way and helped me come back into the 3D reality is Harmony from Harmony Inspired Health. And you're an Ayurvedic practitioner and you've studied tea, like traditional Chinese medicine. Please, I don't even know that I can touch the scope of how epic the offerings are that you bring to the world. Harmony, introduce yourself to us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation. We already started it before we hit record and we're like, oh, we're going to hit record. We've got so many things to talk about. But yes, I am Harmony. I am an Ayurveda and integrative health practitioner, specifically for women's health. So I specialize in hormonal health. I'm also the founder of the Ayurveda Alchemist Academy, where we certify women to become Ayurveda lifestyle and health coaches. And I do have a background in clinical medicine as a registered nurse. And yes, I'm doing a master's in applied science for TCM and acupuncture. So I like to really bridge the gap between Eastern and Western medicine. That's what I feel like I'm here to do, and I'm all for it.
I literally have tingles because watching you over the last few years and then when you started to come into, the acupuncture and things like that, I was like, oh my goodness, she's in my jam. I got so excited by you being able to have that lens and then to be in an actual session with you and for me to be describing all these things and you're like, stomach meridian, and I'm like, oh, whoa, because I realized I had to let go of so much of my training in some aspects to be able to access the unknown. But as a spiritual and transformative type of an experience, and you have a context for that with Ayurveda. And I also knew that because my practice was not, my background was not Ayurveda. And I also had a huge desire to understand from a point of view of the Western medicine. And so for you to be a registered nurse as well, I'm like, freaking holy grail for women's health. Are you joking? So I'm just so grateful that you exist. And how did you come to be in that position of, the evolution of all of those modalities?
Yeah, the evolution of me. So I guess, firstly, I never really was like, I want to be a nurse. That was never felt like a calling to me. But as you do, you go through school, and then my mum was like, what are you going to do when you finish school? I was like, oh, I don't know. She's like, you're so good with your animals. You're always bandaging them up and doing this and that. But you should be a nurse, because if you're a nurse, you can travel. And I came from quite a small little country town in northern New South Wales. And back in my schooling days, I didn't really know the options, to be honest. It was basically, if you were to go on and go to uni, it was like you go and do teaching or you go and do nursing. And I was like, oh, whatever, I'll go do nursing, because I've always loved health and fitness as well. I must say, I've always been into all different athletics and sports and stuff. So went and did nursing. Super grateful for my experience as a nurse. I'm still a registered nurse and have been for 19 years. I learned so much. I learned all about the Western medical system, emergencies, because that was my background. I was an emergency nurse in theatre, so more of those acute sort of areas, which was great. But I also saw the limitations, and there's a lot of limitations in Western medicine, especially in those acute sort of emergency areas where you're just seeing people rebound in and out all the time with the same thing. And and it also wasn't very conducive to the lifestyle I wanted to live as well. So being a nurse, you're a shift worker, it's crazy environment, it's high pressure, high stress job. And then I had my twin boys, so they're almost 12 now. And I had my own hormonal imbalances after giving birth to my twins, and a whole lot of other things. You go from, full-time work in this high-pressure career to being a mum, which is beautiful, but you also sort of lose your identity in that. I'd also studied along the way, I was teaching yoga and Pilates and personal trainer, all those type of things. And when I did come into my own health issues, I really had to take a step back, and it's a really good time to evaluate yourself, what you want. And for me, the allopathic medical system, so the Western medical system, it wasn't helping me get to where I wanted to get to in my health when it came to my hormonal imbalances and gut health issues. And there's, like, in Ayurveda, we say, like, the mind-body connection is so strong. It's so real. Like, we look at the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, and the dharmic aspect, which is purpose.
Yes.
And we certainly don't do that in an emergency department or in
No.
any the medical system that I was previously in. So I knew there had to be more. And I'd already studied like Ayurvedic psychology and nutrition here and there. But I decided I want to go all in on this. I want to apply it to my life. I did. And I was like, this is next level amazing. And so I was like, straight away, I'm on maternity leave. I'm going to become an Ayurvedic practitioner. And that's what I went and did, and have never looked back. I absolutely love it. And then it wasn't until I think actually like COVID, because I always thought about, I'd love acupuncture, because in Ayurveda, there's a principle of like a technique called mama puncture, which is very much the same as acupuncture, but it was taught down through like secret lineage. Like, it's not like a university degree or something that you practice here. And so it sparked my interest more and more into acupuncture, because I found out like some of the points were similar. They worked with the meridian. So then I was like, why not become an acupuncturist too? So I went off and did my master's in that. And I'm like, I'm here to combine all the Eastern medicines and all the Westerns and do my best.
Well, see, what I love about that too is it crosses so many of the elements. Like, to be able to use acupuncture as a form of, you know, metal entering the body in a way that's far more conscious than, you know, some other ways that it might, you know, enter the body. So it being able to have the full spectrum of that, and knowing that you had all these other layers on top that I didn't have, with, even though my training was quite extensive as well, it wasn't the point. I wanted to look at the things that were going on in my life personally from that holistic point of view. And the more layers that were on there, the more I was like, I feel like this person will be able to connect the dots and help me with the information that I have. And one of the biggest parts that I felt predominantly when coming to you was how you would hold a space of belief over my experiences, having gone to doctors and tried to say, well, look, I've actually got I feel as though there's, you know, there's an emotional impact, there's a neurological impact to this gut health stuff, and them not believe me, and looking at my bloods and saying, well, I don't think that you've actually got inflammation because you don't have high levels of this and that, and feeling like I'm just not getting believed in my experience still as a woman. And that's kind of been the whole journey along. And to go, okay, here's someone who understands how to read a blood chart, knows how to ask about, you know, you were telling me stuff that I didn't know about. SIBO,
yeah, small intestine area overgrowth.
Yeah. And so valuing and knowing that you valued all these things, one of the reasons I came to you is because I felt safe opening up to you on the spiritual level. And I feel as though Ayurveda, like, it can be delivered in a way that's like the maintenance of a human, the body and physicality of a human, but it is also like a spectrum of layers between that and the spiritual experience. And that's one of the reasons why I, you know, being someone who's struggled to trust authority with some of my experiences that I've had, knowing someone who understood, and we were talking, you know, about being in, what are they called? Like an affiliation with the APRA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm like governed by APRA, like a government body. Yeah.
Yes. And so for someone who is also like kind of stretching their wings back out into trusting authority and that sort of thing, to know, okay, well, they're going to have to meet this criteria of qualification before they, you know, kind of can say what they say, and knowing that I can then hold them accountable if they were to say something other than that. I know that sounds really like skeptical, but yeah, that's kind of where I've been at. And that's one of the reasons why I so value you, because you hold to that with a great integrity.
Mm.
and you're able to do your magic within that integrity. And there's a real safety in that. And you also hold the the right of the individual to choose,
Mm.
um, to choose and manage a prescription of
Mm.
like, not that you prescribe, but to also have an element of self-judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the beauty of Ayurveda is it meets the individual with where they're at, which is what I absolutely love. And as I mentioned before, like we do take in the physical complaints because they're real. Like we all, we're spiritual beings and we hear that a lot, and that is so true. But we're also living in this very real physical body in this day and age. So we have these physical signs and symptoms. We need to treat those. And a lot of those signs and symptoms in women can come from spiritual disconnect, or like personal traumas, or emotional and mental disruption. Like there's so many different aspects of what drives or manifests your physical symptoms. And then there's obviously like a physical, like someone comes and punches you in the arm, you're going to get a sore arm. But at the same time, if you've got a buildup of armor, what we call in Ayurveda armor, it sort of relates loosely to toxins. So you can have physical toxins through bad diet or just, consuming toxins in the air, whatnot. But you can have mental and emotional armor as well, which is still a buildup of toxins. And really what that is, like if we are feeling so stressed, so under the pressure, or so misheard or judged, like you were saying, like you hold this skepticism, which I think is a very healthy thing to do. Like if you've been constantly feeling judged every time you're trying to seek help with your health, and then every time you go to see a professional, you start to get this anxious feeling, start to get a headache, neck pain, shoulder pain. Well, that is
No, I'm celebrating you. I'm like, yeah, keep going. Awesome.
that is just emotional and mental armor building up in the body. And what that is it actually creates a real physical hormonal interaction, right? So yes, it's mental, emotional, but there is then a physical reaction in our body from our adrenals and our hormones, communication pathways. And so we have this chemical toxin, or like chemical overload in the body as well. So I kind of went off on a little bit of a tangent, but
no, that was spectacular, because that's really where I came to you with. I'm like, okay, Harmony, I've got this pain. It's like here and here. It's digestive, but it isn't. It's feels reproductive, but it isn't. It's like my back, but my stomach. It's like I feel it. I can't deny it. And what the heck? And you were able to sort of start picking through a few different little elements of life, and we came down to setting a bit more of a conscious morning routine. And that helped, and it was the breathing. And so I found one validation that my experiences that were physical weren't all from my head and just like psychological, get over it, you're too soft. But it was also coming down to I was going through like a big, like there was the fear of cervical cancer, like my HPV developing into cervical cancer. I was in a high pressure job, and I was going through a relationship disintegration. And so there was so many different fears and things going on in my physical body, and it was manifesting it through my physical body, but it was absolutely the state of my chemical and everything. And so for you to be able to prescribe things that would benefit me from that holistic point of view, it actually helped me float far simpler through that whole thing. So I felt like you just sort of set me up to sort of go, hey, that was my entire experience, but it was effortless because we haven't scripted this or planned this.
No. And it just, goes to like show, like, thank you for sharing your story, because it's so multifactorial what goes into these physical manifestations. So, you talk about like that, even like lower back pain, that feeling of not feeling supported in a relationship, like the abdo pain, all of these, like not digesting what's going on, like, or you're in such a high pressure job, you don't have the time and space to digest what's going on. And of course your body responds to your thoughts, right? And even if they're subconscious thoughts. And I was mentioning before we hit record, I was talking about some of the layers of the mind, and I was saying how you have such a beautiful way of bringing this information to the world, because you have this deep wisdom, but you have this, and you can channel a lot of these amazing messages, but you also have a very deep discerning intellect about you. And I feel that you really use that Buddhi mind, which is sort of that higher construct of the mind from like an Ayurvedic psychology point of view. And so when we look at Ayurveda, we're really taking like this holistic deep dive into everyone's body, their mind, their spirit, how are they feeling on purpose and connected to their dharma? Like, was that high pressure job part of your dharmic path? Like, how is that affecting your body? How is that affecting the foods that you're eating? And then we obviously look at the individual constitution, your doshas, and with all of the complexity around you, how are you best supporting those doshas?
Yes, absolutely. And it really did help to give me the strength to set boundaries in my life within certain relationships that were really difficult, and speaking into what it is that I needed instead of ticking the boxes that society says that I need to tick. And so really starting to almost have a physical proof of, if I don't do this, I'm getting sicker. Like, that's the trajectory, and am I okay with that? And then having to go and make some conscious choices, which broke my heart too. But it was breaking attachments, and it was the attachments that were making me sick. And, it's the slowly letting go and that social suicide of just, what are all the boogeymans and the shames, and how can I talk to them so that they're not so scary? And that might sound defensive sometimes.
I love that, because you spoke about like letting go of attachments, and I think we call that concept or that practice aparigraha. And I know from when we looked at your doshas, you had like these two opposing, you had like a lot of vata going on, and I think that's where a lot of that channeling and stuff comes from, but you also have a lot of kapha as well.
Yes.
And from the kapha perspective, they often get very attached to relationships, attached to people's, they always want to help everybody, and they have a really hard time putting in boundaries to their detriment. And then they do have to really come back to this space of, how can I practice this aparigraha? It's all in my words now. Because they're so, they thrive off the deep connection, but sometimes that can also be to their detriment, not always, if it's not the right deep connection, if you know what I mean.
Yes. And I can so relate to that personally. And so when I hear you start to deliver information that I've personally experienced, and I know that you don't know the whole catalog of data from my life, I'm like, okay, well, maybe she knows a little something here. I'm going to open more to the information. And because it's in a place of non-judgment, you're just delivering the information through the context of the lens that you see. Then the individual, as me, I felt so much more open to go, okay, this is information that my body is literally opening to on a subconscious level. And it was right around the time that I also was recalibrating to my yeses and my nos within my body. And so to feel that viscerally, and also just looking back to go to seeing over those few weeks, and, over that month time, my body soften and open as I started to implement and let my heart break in some relationships. And then my body opens more and then constricts more. So the yeses and the nos felt so much more visceral. And, being able for you to detangle the head space, like the mental space, so that I could draw a connection between spirit and physical, I felt safer in my mental space after that.
Beautiful. And I think we also spoke about you like opening up and speaking and educating and teaching
We
and getting back really into that healing space, because you have that wisdom that you can articulate so beautifully. And I think that was another thing that was sort of like getting held back or sort of shoveled down a little bit. So I'm so happy that to see now, like, you're really expressing yourself creatively, but also like from this deep sense of like wisdom and a real sense of security in who you are, which I love.
Thank you, Harmony. And I'm feeling that and witnessing you continue on with your journey and your path, and to be so sure in it. It's a light and a beacon to me too, to see what's possible. And, you know, that's a beautiful thing too. Like, we don't always have to have the same experiences, and the fact that we don't is a beautiful gift to the world.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I'm so grateful for how you've lived your life so openly and fully, and offered so deeply of the things that you know and held true to, because creating a mastery around something requires so much dedication. And for you to be able to, you know, I think you said that you're Pitta.
Pitta, yeah.
Yeah. Is that quite a Pitta thing?
Yes, that is a thing for sure. Like being really dedicated to the mastery of something, very goal orientated, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then the Vata in me has like so many different ideas and like,
yes.
yeah, it's like, what ones do I need to like refine and implement? I've got to call on my Pitta strengths here.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And your vision, your Dharma is, would you be able to share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I firsthand have felt, seen, and witnessed the power of Ayurveda and Eastern medicines. And so I really honestly feel like so soul connected on my path when I am educating and I'm sharing and I'm speaking of these wisdoms. And so I feel very much connected to my dharmic path of building up my academy, the Ayurveda Alchemist Academy, where we train other individuals in Ayurveda so they can go and share, they can support their clients, and if they're healers, support them in a different way as well, through coaching and healing, integrating their somatic practices. And what we do is we know that everyone is so individual and so needed in this world to share their gifts. And so we ask where they've come from, what are their past skills, like kinesiology, some nurses, there's some people who have been in finance, like there's all different genres and they've got all different world experiences and skills. How can we package them all together with the wisdom of Ayurveda to create something truly unique that only you can offer? So I'm really big about getting everybody on their dharmic path with their unique method, their unique individuality. And I love that. I love seeing the girls get so connected to their art that they just speak about it with passion, like you and I are, you know, like just really feeling it. So I really love that, and I feel that that's definitely, I'm on the right path when I'm doing that.
You light up when you do it too, and it's so beautiful to see how much of it you've integrated into your life in a way that I would say is not only sustainable but like thriving, you know. And it's beautiful to watch that all unfold for you. And I it's just beautiful to meet people who are so sincere in what it is and the way that they tread on the earth. And I've so resonated and found a lot of gratitude for your sincerity, Harmony. Thank you so much. And so can you tell us how people can reach you, how to work with you, you know, where to find you? And I will also put the links in the show notes, but
yeah,
just from your own voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Instagram a bit. That's sort of the platform I like to hang out on. Harmony Inspired Ayurveda is my Instagram handle. And if you want to shoot me a message, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to chat in there. In saying that, I do have a Facebook group, the Ayurveda Women's Health Sisterhood, where I do a lot of live stream trainings and stuff in. Otherwise, just get to my website, which is harmonyinspiredhealth.com.au, and you can find all of the information. I've got lots of free resources, so a dosha quiz if you want to know your dosha. If you're in the health and wellness business space, some business resources for you. So yeah, go nuts, enjoy yourself.
Oh my gosh. And honestly, just from a personal perspective, I've so appreciated working with Harmony and her helping me to see a lot more of the clarity going on from a metaphysical point of view, from that spiritual point of view, and also from the physical point of view. So Harmony, thank you so much for existing in our space.
Thank you so much. This has been fun. And thank you for all the things you do as well. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Welcome.